So good to have you back here on College Football Daily as we head down the backside of the season. It's come upon us pretty fast, and with that, we have news out of college football in the Big 12 Conference. So no go for expansion for Bob Bowlesby and company, the Big 12 staying put. As you take a look at some of the teams that, they made their plea, they made their point. You could call them beggars if you wanted to, but they certainly tried to put themselves out there for possible inclusion to possible expansion to the Big 12. But no, not to be done at this time. Here's Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the conference.
I really feel good about the strength of our conference going forward. I think that this was really not a decision not to expand. This was an endorsement and a reinvestment in the strength of the 10 that we have. And so I feel very good about that. I think it was a deliberate process, one that included a lot of people. It was more public than many of these other processes have been. And as I mentioned, these were institutions that self-identified. We did not go out and solicit the participation of any institution. The decision in part was a celebration of what we have. I think that I would be remiss if I didn't echo my appreciation to the schools that self-identified and voluntarily got involved in this process. The decision really didn't have very much to do with the individual elements of those institutions. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, obviously, as all of our members do, but this was really about defense of our model. And we feel like a full round robin in football and a double round in men's and women's basketball, and we had 3 of the last 8 teams in the baseball tournament. We won a softball national championship. There's an awful lot to celebrate.
A lot of criticism of this decision, most notably from the governor of the state of Texas. Greg Abbott tweeted, "The Big 12 owes a lot of people an apology. It punted on expansion and shanked its future. At UH Houston, deserved better." I think a lot of people in college football fans agree with that sentiment right there. I keep hearing all these phrases that Bowlesby's using, like self-identified, and that we didn't go pursue anybody. Then why make this whole thing public, Alex? Why even go down this path? Was it just to draw attention to yourself?
It seems like that. It seems like it was bungled from the very beginning. And I know Texas and I know Oklahoma get to maintain a bigger piece of the pie, and I'm sure they like that. But my question is, moving forward, what is the strength of the league as a whole? If one person leaves the Big 12 now, where are they? Are they the team now where if expansion happens with the rest of the Power 5, does everyone go to the Big 12 and say, who can we plunder from them?
Yeah, I mean, this is just crazy because we talk about it all off season, and they go through and they give you this whole thing of semantics about, well, they self-identified and they did this. Felt like all these people got in front of them and, they interviewed for a position and they said, oh, the position really wasn't there. We posted it, but it wasn't there. Or the 2 positions now weren't there. And I know they had a couple of things. They wasted people's time. The TV folks that they had the answer to said, look, are you guys sure you're going to do this? They had to walk it back on that front. And then they also had, they could be in a position where if Oklahoma and Texas says, hey, this is kind of the conference we run, and everybody knows that except Bob Bowlesby never wants to lead on to that. If they decide to leave, then what happens to this conference?
There's some weakness in the leadership aspect of this whole thing. I mean, when you're talking about the comments and the things that they're talking about from all the different landscapes of what you want to build, 10 teams is really not the answer moving forward. And you said it best, Alex. One team, it only takes one team to pillage away from this whole concept of the Big 12, and then all of a sudden everything falls down in shambles.
See, they didn't solve their main issue that has created this entire discussion, and that is, can you get into the college football playoff without having a championship game?
Exactly.
They're touting playing everybody. The Pac-12 plays everybody. They've got a conference championship game. That's, to me, is what stands out about this, is they didn't solve their biggest problem. So if they are fine with every single season going into the year and there being a distinct possibility that no matter what they do, they're not going to be included, then they made the right decision.
Well, it's kind of like Oklahoma I mean, Oklahoma and Nebraska were kind of married for a while. They were rivals. Nebraska left. Texas and Texas A&M were married, and they left. They both just got out of Dodge, and I think they're opening themselves up to being poached again. And we talked about it. There's going to be 4 super conferences. I don't know when it's going to come, but the Big 12 now has made itself weaker. And we're going to keep talking about them expanding because this is not the end. And that's the issue that I have with this is that we keep doing this every offseason, and they keep telling us, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. No, if you're going to do it the way you should and stop letting these people come to you with these conferences and they're self-identifying allegedly, and then you have them make them feel like they have a chance. And this is the part that I don't like. You waste a lot of people's time and everybody else's time because we expect to see a couple teams, i.e. Houston, maybe BYU, maybe Cincinnati, and the list that you saw before this started.
Alex, do you believe that if the conference, if we did go to super conferences, is this a conference that gets picked on more than any other conference?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they
Why?
put themselves in this situation. They were already shorthanded to begin with. And then by going through this whole process to start with, you've basically put yourself in that situation. Okay, we need to expand. We need to get stronger. We need to build toward the future. And then after all that, you decide the past is better. You've already been attempted to be plundered once before with the Pac-12.
Sure.
They're going to come right back. Again, they've put themselves in a position of weakness. And I just don't know how you come back from that with this display and this dog and pony show that just got turned on its head from the very beginning. It seemed like the minute they made that decision, they regretted it.
It's interesting how they said that, we weren't inquiring any teams to come at us. Yet all these teams were publicly making the assumptions and preparing to inquire to be part of the Big 12. Why not just come that day? Listen, we're not asking for anybody to send us any letters or send us any reasons why you should be here, but everybody did. They didn't stop that mail session to keep coming their way.
It was commish speak. It was commish speak.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah, it was commish speak.
Oh, we get on coach search committees all the time. This is the worst search committee I've ever seen in my life. It was public. It was embarrassing.
Alex, you said something best. It was speed dating at its worst.
And they said, well, we didn't want anybody after all that. Come on.
I just, golly, I go back to the first year of the Big 12 with 10 teams and the whole TCU Baylor dynamic and what happened at the end of that college football playoff. And Bob Bowlesby comes out publicly and said, well, had we had known that not having a championship game, what do you mean had you known? Everybody and their brother knew.
We have co-champions.
What, act like you didn't know?
We have co-champions.
Yeah, we have co-champions.
Yeah, and each step of the way, you have to show the leadership. And that's the part to me that's frustrating. And I think if you look at who leads this conference, it's not Bob Bowlesby. It's not him.
Oh, all right. We've exhausted that.
We pretty much have.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up on Saturday night, Ohio State taking on Penn State. That's going to kick off at 8 o'clock Eastern time on ABC.